I am a mom. I feel like that's a TED Talk. I love my children more than anything in this entire world. They give me the most pride and joy imaginable. They are everything. I'm so lucky to be a mother. And now that I've said that, I will also tell you that being a mom is really hard. And it comes with a lot of other complicated emotions. I have felt loneliness and isolation. I have felt sadness, depression, anxiety. Of course, I have been completely exhausted. The two most surprising emotions that I have felt that I did not expect to feel as a mother are guilt and shame. Mommy guilt. Being a mother is central to my identity, but it's not my only sense of self. I'm also a researcher. I'm a developmental educational psychologist. I study the way that children learn and grow and change, and how we can best teach them. I have made this my life's work, my passion. Yet sometimes with my own children, I don't know what I'm doing. I know what the research says that I should do, but it just doesn't happen sometimes in my house. So what are these feelings of maternal guilt and shame all about? Researchers have done a lot of work in this area, psychologists, and they have discovered some situations that commonly elicit these feelings in mothers. And I'll share some of those situations with you. So the first time that I felt guilt was after returning to work after having my first daughter. I'm a working mom. I love my job here at MSU Denver, best job in the world. I also obviously love my children. After dropping her off at childcare, it was soul-crushing for the first few weeks. And it didn't just stop there. As she grew older and I had another child, these pangs of guilt. I should be home. What if I miss a milestone? Just 2 weeks ago, I missed the first day of kindergarten pickup. Guilt is an emotion that we feel when we think we have done something wrong or bad. It's a moral emotion. Going to work feels bad or wrong. So what about shame? A situation that commonly elicits shame in mothers is breastfeeding. What? It's like the most easy thing. It's so natural, right? Not for everybody. I have a friend, and she would leave any social situation that she was in, any public place, to go feed her baby. She felt so much shame pulling a bottle out of her diaper bag. That is shame. Shame is a self-reflective emotion. We feel it not when we think we've done something wrong or something bad, but instead when we think we are wrong or bad, that we are bad moms. So being a mother is obviously amazing and wonderful and the best gift in the world, but it's also complicated and hard. Being a mother during a global pandemic, it's almost impossible. What happened to moms during 2020? Schools across the nation were shut down. Kids were sent home. Child care institutions closed. Nearly 3 million women left the workforce. Some women were able to still work at great risk to their families and themselves, or if they were privileged enough to work remote. Here's what it looked like in my home in April 2020. This is when I was working remote, teaching full-time online. My then 10-month-old daughter was taking a nap, and I was supposed to be supporting my 4-year-old daughter in online preschool. The end says it all. And I love the way she's looking up at me here. I mean, it's comical, but it's not. I was not good at my job. I was not a very good parent either. I felt so much guilt for not being able to support her schooling, spend as much time face-to-face with her not working. I felt so much shame when I would snap at my children because I just didn't have enough patience. I was overwhelmed and I felt out of control. And I could not be the only one who was feeling this way. So my research team and I, we decided to do a study. We wanted to understand maternal guilt and shame during the pandemic. We collected some data in fall of 2020, and it was right around when parents were making decisions about their children's education. So you could send your child to school face-to-face. And if you did that, what if they got sick? You could keep them home for online school. And if you did that, were you able to adequately support remote learning or to homeschool yourself? And what about all of those interactions they were missing with their peers? For some moms, this was a choice, and for others, the districts decided how children would go to school. But it was a hard time. So the first thing I'll tell you about our data before I give you some numbers is the response rate. It is hard to get people to participate in online studies. We had hundreds of mothers in the first 24 hours reply to our survey. And I think this was saying, help. We're calling out for help. We want to tell our story. We're ready to talk. Maybe it was even cathartic for them and a starting point to healing. So what did we find? We found moderate to high amounts of guilt and shame in our sample. We used the Caring, Shame, and Guilt Scale from Martin et al. In 2006. They developed this. Has a lot of great reliability and validity. It's been used for a long time. It asks questions of our moms like, how much time are you able to spend with your children? What is the quality of care that you can give to your kids? And what is the perception of how other people think you're doing, how good you're doing this mom thing? The most common answer from moms was moderately like me, so we're seeing a pretty heavy amount of guilt and shame, a little bit more guilt than we were seeing shame. Here we have some numbers about how kids were going to school back in fall 2020. And so remote and in-person were our highest categories. There were also some kids who were going hybrid, doing a little of both, and some that were going to homeschool. The thing that's really interesting about this data and these numbers, when we compared guilt and shame across these different groupings, there was no difference. All of the mothers were feeling moderate to high guilt and shame regardless of what was going on with their child's schooling. We found no differences in a lot of things. No difference based on ethnicity. No difference based on working status. No difference based on partner status. If mom was seeking current treatment for a mental health issue, the needs of the child, this was happening to everyone. The only slight variations that we did find were that mothers with PhDs or master's degrees felt a little less guilt. So that's where all that school money went to. And suburban moms were feeling the most guilt and shame compared to urban moms. We measured a lot of psychological constructs in our study. We wanted to see what was related to guilt and shame. We found that guilt was related to shame, to COVID anxiety, how nervous moms were in general about COVID-19. It was related to parental stress, health locus of control, depression, and the needs of the child. These are positive correlations, and so what that means is as one goes up, so does the other. So as guilt increases, so does COVID anxiety. The only negative correlation that we found was with income. Less income, more guilt. We basically replicated these findings when we looked at shame on its own. It was related to guilt, COVID anxiety, all of the same things. We don't see health locus of control anymore, but what we do see is parenting self-efficacy, which is this idea that I can be a good parent. So if you take all of the significant findings and you throw them into what's called a regression analysis, it allows us to predict guilt and shame based on the most significant factors. So what rises to the top? For guilt, the regression analysis shows that we can predict it if we know a mom's shame, if we know their COVID anxiety, and if we have their education level. And for shame, we see if we know their guilt, and if we know their parenting self-efficacy, we can predict their shame. So I've given you the data. I've given you the numbers. What about mom's own words, mother's voices? We asked an open-ended question at the end of our survey that gave moms a chance to tell us what they were thinking.
My feelings of guilt and shame have shadowed my ability to enjoy being a mother. I'm constantly worried I'm not doing enough or the right thing for them. This has not changed based on the pandemic.
Mom guilt has always and will always exist. The pandemic increases some of it, but I know I'll always find something to feel guilty about.
It's real. Feelings of never being or doing enough is never ending.
It disproportionately affects women, mothers. I feel like it's my career that will take the hit, but it makes sense because I have less earning potential.
There was, is, and will continue to be maternal guilt.
I feel like I'm doing my very best, but I'm spread too thin and could be doing everything better if I had more support.
Moms, if you are struggling, you are not alone. And unfortunately, the pandemic is not over. Mothers are still needing to make decisions about their children's safety and education, while also trying to re-enter the workforce. So what can we do to help? Where do we go from here? First, call a mom friend. Walk over to her house. Have coffee. Reach out. Moms are a tough group of people, and we are not going to let on that things aren't going well, especially if it has to do with our kids and our parenting. So reach out. Researchers have found that a great way to reduce psychological distress is through open and caring and supportive relationships. Those relationships include honest, frequent, open communication. So please reach out. Second, employers. Let's not return to the workplace the way it was before COVID-19. Let's create places for working mothers where they can be successful. This includes equity and flexibility. This work is already ongoing. If you're looking for suggestions or need more information, look no further than the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. They are collecting data and doing interviews and holding workshops to get women back to work better. And finally, legislators, school boards, taxpayers, voters, please keep education as a priority. While maternal guilt and shame will likely persist, no mother should ever have to feel guilty for the lack of educational opportunity in the United States.